So this is the first session, which this is an introduction to autism training. The first session, we are going to focus on what is autism, and then mental health in autistic people, sensory sensitivities as we go. Like, we're going to cover these, and then communication, behavior, overwhelm, all those. So we will see where we get to today, and then we will cover the rest the next session. So you started with Karakia. I'm going to skip my Karakia. This is Mace, and I'm Bakaria. I work as a facilitator for Altogether Autism. I've been with Altogether Autism for about 5 years, coming to 5 years now. I started my career as a clinical psychologist, about 20 years ago. And then as I was working, I had some people coming to me with autism that I didn't know much about them. So I did my PhD specifically on autism to learn more about autism. And ever since, I've worked in different spaces, but specifically autistic people, from early intervention to diagnosis, to family education, psychoeducation, to autistic people, support. Well, definitely in very, very different roles in this sector. But yes, so I'm very grateful to be here today, and hopefully we can share some of our experiences together. We're not a big group, but we usually go through these, so I go through these. We're going to have respectful, open discussions today, so feel free to ask any question, talk about anything. We definitely are not going to take anything out of this training to any other space, so feel free to talk about anything you want. You can mention any specific things, and we can talk about those. Participate in activities at your own discretion. We're not gonna have many activities, obviously, because this is online, but we are going to have a few activities. They're not hard activities, but you can choose not to participate in those. And I already promised you this one: what happens here stays here. Okay, so your introduction. So I'm going to hand over to you guys to introduce yourselves, because, well, I already got to know a bit about you guys and what you do. But if you want to tell me more about what you do, please do so. Your name and what you do, and also if you want to ask any autism-related question, or you want to share anything now, you feel free to do so. Okay, so I'll hand over to you, Amy.
Oh, thank you. I'll get started. So obviously I am Amy, and my role here at the Y is quality compliance and safeguarding. So I do a lot of the training and so on for our staff. So our staff, as I told you before, work in a wide range of ages. So Oscar, after school care holiday program, alternative education, youth and early childhood education as well. So I do a lot of the training and also source training for other people. So this stuff is really helpful for me to sort of fill my kitty up, so then I can help other people with what they need as well.
Awesome.
So I might pass along to Garvey if you want to introduce yourself.
You're muted.
Can you hear now? Yes.
Yep.
Kia, my name is Gavi. I'm the center manager of Johnsonville After School Care. So this is my I have been to Y 3.5 years now. So yes, I have few kids who has autism as well, and behavior challenging kids. So I think this will be really helpful for me to get to know more about autism and the stuff.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Do you want to choose the next person, Gavi?
Angie?
Hi.
Hi, Angie.
Right, you can't see me. I don't know why that.
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, I don't know how to put me on. Let's have a look.
I can see you.
Can you see? Oh, okay.
We
That's
can
great.
see you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm Angie. So I run before and after school care at Silverstream. It's one of the biggest sites for the Hutt Valley region and the Wellington region. So I've been with the Y now for about 11 and a half years. So I've seen lots and lots of children come through that actually, some of them actually work for me as well now, which is great. I'm really interested in autism because we have a boy that is an amazing boy, and it's just his quirks and things that I want to sort of discuss and stuff today. But also it's around, we get quite a lot of new entrants 5-year-olds that you can see the same kind of similarities and quirks that they have, and it's like, how do you speak to a parent and approach, because I'm not an expert, you know, in autism, but I see it every day, you know, how do you approach that to a parent and say, hey, I think there's something there, but you know, in a professional way kind of thing. Yeah.
That's a very challenging
Yes.
aspect of it, talking to the parents about it.
Yeah. Cool. And that's me.
Nice. Do we have anyone else? I think we do.
Kia ora, I'm Stan.
Kira?
I work for the Y in Raise Up, which is like a youth development program, and I'm based in Wellington City. I've been with the Y for 1 year, and yeah, I'm really interested to grow in this space and learn more about autism.
Nice.
Yeah, and one of my young people is autistic, so it's just been cool journeying with him. Yeah, and just ready to learn.
Great. Hopefully we can talk about him. Your experiences.
Shall I move?
Right. That's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So great. Great to get to know you guys and the amazing work you guys are doing. I will get to know you more during these 2 sessions. Okay. Okay. We are here from Altogether Autism. Altogether Autism is a trusted autism information and advice center in New Zealand, basically. So we provide trusted information and advice on autism. So why trusted information? Because if you search autism, the word autism, or look it up on Google or any space, you'll get lots and lots and lots of information. Anyone can share whatever they know about autism on there, which might be correct and sometimes not correct. And sometimes it's intentional too. Like some people have other intentions. Like years ago, there was something about a different name to bleach, which was basically bleach that cures autism. And people would feed bleach to their children to cure autism, which is absolutely wrong and not okay to do. So you'll get lots and lots of wrong information because it's a very trendy topic and people talk about it a lot and they want to learn about it. So there's all sorts of people out there. That's why we're here to provide that trusted information. If you want to know more about autism, if you have any specific question, if you read something that you're not sure if it is correct or incorrect, you can always come to our website. We have lots and lots of articles in our website that you can read. And also we have this live chat function, this orange icon that you can see here in the bottom. It's our live chat function. You can click on there and come directly to our team. We have an autistic live chat agent there who receives these questions. She is awesome. She knows a lot about autism, and she's autistic, obviously. And then also she comes to our wider team if she has any question that she can't answer herself. So our wider team is our team of researchers. We have a team of professionals who are like, we have an autistic lawyer, we have a clinical psychologist in our team. We have different people who work with autistic people. So any specific question in any area, these can answer. We have autistic people, other autistic people in our team, and also their family members too. We have teachers who work with autistic people. So you get to hear from a lot of professionals. If you come to our live chat, if you have any question, it goes to our team, and then somebody who knows about it will pick it up and answer your question. So make this, use this, because it's a great opportunity, and it is free to use, and you can use it at any time. Our working hours are day hours, but if you ask a question at midnight, it will come to us and we can answer it the next morning anyway. So this is about us and what we do. Right. Now we start introduction to autism. What is autism? Have you guys heard the term ASD before? You probably have if you have heard about autism diagnosis. So ASD stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder. Autism, what is autism? What do you think autism is?
Like different brain chemistry.
Yeah, it's the way that brain works. Is autistic brain works in different way to non-autistic brain. Yes, that's exactly what it is. So autism is a condition, basically, a lifelong condition. No growing out of it, no like cure or anything like that. It's how the brain works. The brain works in a different way. So it is it receives information in a different way and responds to those information in a different way. What is spectrum?
Like a range with different,
Yeah,
from one to the other.
Yeah, different levels of something, a range of something. So spectrum can be on anything, like color pink, from bright pink to dark pink, or like a spectrum of your knowledge on autism, from somebody who doesn't know anything about autism to somebody who knows everything about autism, which doesn't exist, obviously. And here it is a spectrum of autism. So it means the level of support needs that the person has, and it can vary from a person to a different person. So if you meet one autistic, so what it means is basically if you meet one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. You cannot generalize that to other autistic people. There are some general basics, but every person is unique. And that's important to notice. Sometimes we make mistakes by like, oh, you make good eye contact, so you can't be autistic, but some autistic people can make good eye contact. So it is a very wide range. And also what this spectrum means is that one person can be like, their support needs can be different from a day to another day. So if they have a good day or bad day, if they, so how their support system is, based on that, they'll be different on different days. So you can see that difference in one person too. So what about disorder? What does disorder mean? Is it a positive word, you think? No, definitely not.
No, it's not.
broken, out of order, something
Yeah.
wrong about it, right? So do you think people would like to be called they have a disorder?
No.
Obviously not. So autistic people don't like this word. And that's why we try to avoid using it. We would say autistic, because autistic people like to be called autistic. Some people like to be called autistic. Some people like to be called a person with autism. So we go with whatever a person likes to be called with. And we definitely don't talk about disorder because it's not a positive word and you cannot put a positive spin to this word for sure. Some people talk about, when they talk about ASD, they talk about autism spectrum difference, which is more accepting, more acceptable and accepting. Some people talk about autism spectrum condition, again, something that a group of autistic people accepted. Anyways, we try to stay away from ASD and talk about autism. Now, here in New Zealand, we have a great word in Te Reo for autism, which is takiwatanga. Have you guys heard this word takiwatanga before? No?
No.
This is a great word that Kerry Opai has created. He is a linguist, Te Reo linguist, specialist, and he has written this Te Reo Hapai, which is a glossary of words in mental health sector, addiction sector, and disability sector. So he's created that and has some great words in it. His translation for autism is takiwatanga, which means in his or her own time and space. This is a lot more positive way of talking about autism. All his words are like that in that glossary. So I suggest you go and look it up because it's available online too. You can look it up and then find it and then look at those words. There are a lot more positive words and nicer words to use. So this is one of his translations. It's a lot nicer than autism, right? So autism means, well, it doesn't mean much anymore. When it was discovered first and people used the word autism, it came from the Greek word auto, within themselves, some sort of thing. So these days, it doesn't mean anything because autistic people are not trapped inside themselves. We don't think like that anymore. But because it is a word that people know about it and have heard about it, we still are using it. Takiwatanga is a better word for sure, more expressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to watch a video on this. Takiwatanga.
The audio is not working for me. Is it working?
No, I
for
can't
others?
hear it. I can't hear it.
Can you guys hear this?
No.
No.
Oh. Let's see what happened here. See if it works now.
Kia ora koutou e mātaki
Yeah.
taki maina.
Yeah.
Yeah, taki wātanga. So it means in his or her own time and space. I think that is a positive Māori Indigenous worldview aspect of autism. So I think it sums it up. A e I o u taki wātanga. I've had a lifetime friend who's autistic, so I based a lot of my reasoning for takiwatanga on my adventures with my mate. and so I thought, in his or her own time and space, that's what taki wātanga is, because that's certainly been my experience with my good mate of a lifetime. I mean, I thought it would go down well with the Aotearoa New Zealand context sort of audience, but actually it's taken off, you know, all around the world, and so other countries and Indigenous peoples are reframing their ideas of what autism is based on my translation. So I'm incredibly grateful for that.
So I think it's a different way of describing autism that's really resonating with people. And we actually explicitly say when we're running our training, autism spectrum disorder, that's really heavy, or taki wātanga in my or his or her own time and space, and we talk about how much more fluid that is and how much more positive, and there's no boundaries on it. So, and we might be working with support workers, and they go, yeah, and then further on the day they go, yeah, taki wātanga, in their own time and space. So it's making even attitudes toward working with autistic people change. So it's very powerful.
Great, eh?
Yeah.
Altogether autism today, because
So that was Kerry, the linguist specialist that I talked about, and he explained what taki wātanga means to him. These are some characteristics that autistic people have. In that purple column, you can see diagnostic criteria of autism. So, which means those characteristics are what clinicians look for to diagnose autism. A number of those, obviously not all of them in one person. And then the blue side is common experiences that autistic people have asked us to talk about it because they experience it, but we don't, clinicians don't specifically look at those, like non-autistic people experience those too. Okay, so anything you can identify in the people you work with or children you work with? Or any questions?
The repetitive motor movements.
Yes, yeah.
Upset by routine changes is a big one. Yeah.
That's a common one too.
And not joining in the social opportunities as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about the noise here.
That's another one, noise.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you can see lots of these in the people that you work with, right? Some of them are common among most of people. Some people might not have some of these, but they're still autistic. One thing that is interesting here is that difficulties in sharing imaginative play in brackets boys. Can you think why? That boys? Well, it means
Don't have any imagination. I don't
autism present differently in girls and boys. Some things are specific to boys, some things are specific to girls. Some girls don't show autism as boys do, and that's how they are missed. So like many girls are missed until they're like teenager, and then that's when they get diagnosed with autism, because they share, like this sharing images of play is one of those things that boys don't, autistic boys don't, but girls can still do it.
We have an autistic boy, but he does imaginary play all the time.
He does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and he plays actually with another girl that's on the spectrum, so that's wonderful to see that, them playing together in that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of these signs, they're not like an autistic person won't show all of these, as I said.
Right.
So
Yes,
some people, well, depending on the spectrum and how the person is. Some
Yeah.
people will show some of these signs, some people will show some other signs. But there
Right.
are some basic things like autistic person will have challenges on communication and interaction, social
Yes.
interaction
Yeah.
and communication. And then also will have challenges with rigidity, which can be like with being obsessed with specific things, like having special interest in something, or
Yeah.
I don't know, upset by routine change, those kind of things. So
Yeah.
these two needs to be there. Also, sensory sensitivities, which is a new thing added. So it wasn't there, but it is there now. Okay.
Yeah.
And common experiences, we're going to talk about them. Any questions on any of these before I talk about them?
What
No?
does impaired theory of mind mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are going to cover that one because that's a common one for autistic people, but it is about putting themselves in another person's shoes and seeing the world from their perspective. We have this ability. Autistic people, their brain works in a different way when it comes to this. So we are going to talk more about this in details. Have you seen some people toe walking? Walking on their tippy toes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's common in toddlers at certain age, but when it is for older people, it is a sign. It can be a sign of autism. Yeah, okay. We are going to watch another video here that talks about autism. Can you guys hear this one?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
We are all different, and that's wonderful. Some differences are easy to see. Height, hairstyle, gender, eye color, and so on. Other differences can't be seen. Our favorite foods, fears, or special skills. Interestingly, the way we see the world is also different. For instance, what do you see in this drawing? Most people see a duck, but some of you might have seen a rabbit. Whichever you saw, you are correct. This is just a trick drawing to show you that all brains work differently. The brain is your body's computer. It works differently for all of us and controls how you learn. That's why we are all good at different things. How you feel, which is why we all feel different emotions. And how you communicate. Sometimes the brain is connected in such a way it affects the senses and how we perceive and read situations and interactions. This is known as autism. Many people have autism, so it's likely you already know someone who is autistic. And for this reason, it's useful to know a little bit about autism. The special wiring inside an autistic brain can sometimes make the person good at tasks we may find difficult, such as mathematics, drawing, or music. It can also do the opposite, and activities we find too easy are incredibly difficult to them, such as making friends. The senses constantly send information to your brain about your surroundings and other people. However, when a person's brain and its senses don't communicate well, the brain can become overwhelmed and confused, affecting how they see the world. Picture yourself walking down the street. This is how an autistic brain may experience the same walk. Scary, isn't it? Sadly, in many cases, the person can't say out loud how they feel. So even though there's chaos going on in their heads, they seem okay on the outside, unable to ask for help. We all develop behaviors to help us feel calm in uncomfortable situations. We may look away, hug ourselves, chew our fingernails, fidget, bite our lips, and so on. Equally, autistic people develop behaviors that help them cope with these intense moments. These actions may seem unusual, but they're just their way to feel calm. When they happen, it means they are having a hard time. The kind thing to do is not to give them an even harder time by getting cross, ignoring them, or mocking them. Remember, just because a PlayStation can't read an Xbox game, it doesn't mean it's broken. People with autism need friends who are willing to take the time to know them. With good communication and plenty of patience, everyone would be better off. People with autism are not ill or broken. They simply have a unique view of the world. And with a little support from their friends, they might just be able to share that view with us. Autism can make amazing things happen.
Okay, what did we see in this video?
I thought it was interesting how they talked about like repetitive behaviors being a sign of like uncomfortable or distress.
Yeah, yeah. That is a great point. Yes, we are going to talk about it. So it's more about being overwhelmed and under stress and understanding the
Being
things that
calm.
are going on before the behavior happens. Yeah. Anything else?
It's interesting how just walking down the street can be fine for somebody without autism, but for somebody with autism can be an actual real big thing. Yeah, and very distressing
Yes.
for them. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't, I mean, it's really hard to know how an autistic brain sees the world that is set up for us neurotypicals. But when you look from their point of view, it's like this world can be really scary if you're
Yeah.
all the time living in a world like that. It can be really, really hard and put lots of pressure on your basically mental health.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. I found it quite overwhelming just watching that video. So I can't imagine being in that state constantly.
Yeah, I know. Yes. And the other thing is that I like about this video is that comparison between that Xbox and PlayStation game. I think that they can't read each other's input, but it doesn't mean that one of them is broken. So it's about that, like autism is not broken or it's not less. It's just a difference in how brain works and receives information. Yeah.
Like they can live in the world. They can live their small world, like a decent amount of time, and entertaining by themselves.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so like I have seen like the boy was playing with the like with the windmill and then focusing on that, not the outer world.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes they have to block out the world and other things because you can see like when you're walking in the street and everything is coming at you all at once, when you want to focus on something, you have to block out all that information. So it's yes, it's just that how their brain works because it's receiving too much. They have to block out everything. The brain has to block out everything so they can focus on something, so they don't hear like somebody talking to them. Yeah. Okay. So this is one of those activities that I talked about. For this activity, just need a pen and somewhere on a piece of paper, please sign. Can you guys sign your name with your dominant hand, the hand that you usually use to signing your name on that piece of paper? Like write your name or sign it or whatever works. Did you guys do that?
Yep.
Was it easy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you switch to your other hand and do it with your non-dominant hand?
No.
I'm guessing they
can't do
don't quite look alike, do they?
No.
How was this one? Did you
That's
do
awful.
it? Was it harder to do? And then did you
Yeah.
need to focus on it more and then take longer time to do it? And the result doesn't look exactly the same either. Okay, so because of this, because you guys are not good at signing your name with your non-dominant hand, I'm going to take out half an hour of this presentation and then focus on practicing signing your name with your non-dominant hand. How do you guys feel about that? Will you guys do that? No, obviously you're going to say, no, we don't want to practice like signing.
No.
Just because I am telling you, you need to learn this, it doesn't mean that you need to learn this, right? So it's not your choice, it's my choice. And you don't want to do that. So you don't want to spend your time doing what I chose for you to learn. But this is what we do with autistic people usually, isn't it? We choose what they need to do. We choose what they need to learn. We don't usually give them a choice. Like we forget about things that they can do well. We say like, oh, it doesn't matter that you can do like all these puzzles amazingly. You cannot make eye contact. And I think that's important. So you need to learn this one. And you can imagine what that does to their self-esteem, right? So if I keep telling you that doesn't matter that you can sign your name with your dominant hand, you're not good at signing your name with your non-dominant hand. You cannot do that. So you need to practice it and keep practicing it.
Yeah.
It's something that doesn't make sense to you. And it's something that I'm just putting you down constantly. It will impact your self-esteem. It will impact your mental health. It's the same thing for autistic people. They are all the time hearing what they are not good at and what they are different, like they should, they're all the time hearing, well, you should be able to be like neurotypicals, basically. And that can impact their self-esteem and their ability to function. So this is an important thing to look at when you're working with autistic people. This is from a business coach. Conventional wisdom says we work on improving our weaknesses. What a terrible waste of time, talent, and opportunity. Focus on your strength and experience the immense satisfaction that comes with being superb at something. Okay, what strengths do you see in people that you work with? Can you name some of those strengths?
They're very honest.
Yeah, honesty in one of them. If you don't want to
Too
hear
honest
their
sometimes.
opinion about something, just don't ask. Yeah, they'll give you honest opinion.
And do you know what? They've got a fantastic sense of humor. They're really funny without knowing that they're really funny.
Yeah. Sense of humor, yeah.
And as well, we've got a boy that's very, very bright. He picks up things really quickly, especially with games and stuff. And he can master anything. And it's really hard for any of the children to beat him at these games as well.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I really like how oh my gosh, how interested he is in things and how
yeah,
he can get along, and
yes.
like
Yeah.
I can always have fun with him. Yeah.
Yeah, very enthusiastic about things or interested
Yeah.
about things that they are interested in. Yeah.
And they if you tell them something, they remember. They've got very good memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Be careful when you promise them something.
Yes,
Because they're gonna remember that. Yeah.
it's true. It's true.
Yes. When you look at these strengths, you can see lots of strengths, but you also can see them from deficit point of view. Like honesty, you look at honesty, being honest and telling you what it is, can be seen as a deficit in social skills that you need to realize you can't tell this to somebody else, right? So all of these things that you guys mentioned, we can look at them from deficit point of view, or we can look at them from strengths point of view.
Yeah.
When you look at them from deficit point of view, you're comparing an autistic person with a non-autistic person and telling they're less than non-autistic people and they need to learn these things, which is not right to do to anyone, right? So this is the point of the main point of any training on autism, that we need to focus on their strengths and work on those to help their mental health, to help their self-esteem, to help them feel good about themselves. Because we get this right in our life, so nobody comes and tells us constantly that we're not good at things, and we get to do things that we like and we enjoy, and we get to learn things that we enjoy doing. So autistic people should do the same. And these are some examples of strengths that other groups have come up with, and you guys mentioned some of them too. And you probably can identify some more from this list. Okay. Now we talked about brain working in a different way for autistic people. Now we're going to focus a little bit more on how this difference is, like what this difference is. So one of those common experiences that we mentioned in the beginning of this workshop I talked about was this executive functioning challenges that autistic people have. What is executive functioning and what are those challenges and what does it mean to have challenges with executive functioning? So here we're going to focus on that. Executive function skills are some parts of our brain talking to each other, making things happen, basically. So if you want to do a project, if you want to do a task, if you want to achieve something, different parts of your brain need to work together to help you achieve it. So this task could be something like being in the school this morning. You needed to know what time, you needed to know the link, you needed to remember what to do, like to get that link and follow it and then get on and then check your sound system and everything else, make sure it works. And to remember the time that you needed to be there, to not double book yourself for this morning, or to know when to wake up to get to the school on time. All those things you needed to know. So this involves lots of planning and organizing and remembering things and following the instructions that you've been given. And then in the meantime, dealing with any change. So like for some of you, when you joined the school, your sound system was not working. And then when you saw your sound system was not working, you needed to double check that and work on it, right? So to make sure that it works perfectly. So this is what this executive functioning means. So that was a change that you needed to deal with it, but you were able to deal with it and check it and carry on doing what you were doing it. This is your executive functioning helping you do this. Remember all of these things, plan for it, keep organized, stay organized, and when something goes wrong, try and fix it and get back on track. This is executive functioning skills, and some autistic people and some non-autistic people, like ADHD people or people with other neurodifferences, they don't have good executive functioning skills. So doing tasks, completing a task can be difficult for this person. We're gonna dig deeper on this and get to know how it is different. There's also another side to this executive functioning, which is understanding or recognizing when things are getting out of your hand and reacting to that. So like you are, or like I am in a situation that makes me nervous, and my brain is able to pick up, I am becoming nervous here. I cannot keep functioning like this. And then is able to tell me, do something about it, look away, get a drink, do something, or move, or do something to not be nervous anymore and be able to function. So this is my brain able to detect it. Now imagine if my brain was not able to detect this, I would sit here and be more and more and more nervous until I'll be paralyzed and I can't do anything and I can't say anything and I will be overwhelmed. This happens for autistic people a lot. They become overwhelmed in situations because they cannot detect when things are getting out of their hands. And they get to the point that it just flows out. It's just too much and they cannot take it anymore. And I'm sure you have seen this a lot with autistic people that you work with.
Yeah.
So one side of executive functioning is also working memory. Working memory is a memory that keeps data active until we need it. So it's not a long-term memory. It's different to that. A person can have a great long-term memory, remember things from past greatly, but not good working memory. And autistic people are not good with working memory side of this. And working memory is very much needed with executive functioning skills, because to be able to follow instructions, keep organized, stay organized, and follow your plan, you need to remember what happens next, basically. And this is your working memory. You need to keep data active for a long time in your working memory. And when your working memory is not good, you won't be able to do that. So it is the memory that we use. Let's say like I read a passcode and I keep it in my memory until I type it in. This is my working memory. So I'm just using it until I type it in. I'm not using it to, I'm just using it until I type it in. I'm not using it. I'm not going to remember it when you like come to me an hour later and ask me what was the passcode. I won't be able to tell you because I haven't sent it to my long-term memory. So this is your working memory. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions on executive functioning skills before I move to challenges related to executive functioning skills? Okay. These are some challenges related to executive functioning skills. Can you identify any of these and people you work with?
Yes.
Yeah. So solving problems can be difficult for somebody who doesn't have good executive functioning skills. Solving problem is something like let's say you get a new drink bottle and you want to use it and you don't know how to use it. So this is solving problem. Your brain will be able to tell you, okay, you've tried this way, it didn't work, try another way, and you get it work. But a person who doesn't have good working memory won't keep that data active in their brain, that they have tried this bit. So they will keep trying the same thing over and over. That doesn't work. So you can see how it interferes with solving problems. Being overwhelmed with changes, that's another challenge with executive functioning skills. Because change has a lot of new things, right? Like the one that I talked about. And when you don't have good executive functioning skills, you can't really deal with that change and get back on track. Following multi-step instructions. We use this a lot more than what we think. Like we tell people, come on, get your bag, put your lunchbox in your bag, get out of the door, don't forget to shut the door, and then get in the car.
Yeah.
So like we give multi-step instructions to people, and if a person doesn't have good working memory to keep all this active at the same time, they won't be able to follow it. They'll do the first one and then not do the rest, or they'll just get in the car without their lunchbox or bag. So what do we do with this one?
Just maybe do one step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One instruction at a time, or written instructions,
Yeah.
or visual instructions, pictures. Yeah. Yeah. Pictures are a great solution for many things because they don't fade away. They stay there, so the person can refer back to them as many times as they want. So they're really great solutions. And consequences, linking consequences to actions can be really difficult for somebody who doesn't have good executive functioning skills. So when a person doesn't have good executive functioning skills, they won't be able to link the consequences to their actions. Like, let's say I go and I push Amy, she falls over and she cries. And then I cannot remember, I have forgotten the bit that I pushed Amy, and all I can see is that Amy is crying. So I want to learn that not to push Amy if I don't want her to cry, because all I can remember is that she's crying. So this is a lot of the learning that we have is based on this one, basically, that we learn with we learn with linking our consequences to our actions. So, and if somebody can't do that, they will miss out on lots of learning. And you can see this happens for autistic people. What do we do with this one? We visuals, or we talk about them, or we make it clear that this happened because you did this. And regulating emotions is another side, which is what I talked about, it understanding when things are getting out of hand and then doing something about it. An autistic person who doesn't have good executive functioning won't realize that, won't recognize that, and then will leave it until it is out of their hand. So these are some strategies that we can use. Use routines, because routines are long-term memory. So they're not short-term memory or active memory. So use routines as much as you can. Make things into routines. Creating routines from everything can help an autistic person to be more settled and can put less pressure on their brain so they can function well. Visuals, as we talked about them, use pictures as much as you can. Written words, pictures, sign language, whatever visual that you can use. We use visuals all the time to help us. Like we use our calendar, we use the signs on the road to help us navigate. So we can use visuals with autistic people. Give one instruction at a time. Plan for transitions, because change is difficult. Remember, change is difficult for autistic people because of executive functioning challenges. So try to avoid changes. Try to prepare them for any change. I know that sometimes change happens and you cannot avoid it, but try to prepare them as much as you can. Sometimes you have to deal with it, and they will deal with it, but not many times. Understand the signs of stress or anxiety. Teach people strategies they can use themselves, and make consequences clear. So yes. Any questions on any of these? You guys know how to use these strategies? Feel confident with them? Great.
Yeah.
And then part of this executive functioning is restricted interests. So restricted interests that people have is caused by executive functioning challenges. This is basically brain having less imaginative ability, so the brain cannot imagine other things, so they have restricted interest in something. When we see this, we can use these to build relationships. We can learn about their restricted interests. If somebody is interested in, like, I don't know, trains or trucks or Thomas the Tank Engine or whatever, we can learn more about that and then build relationship with that. So we can use that in the activities that we create for them. We can use that in games that we create for them. So it can be very helpful. So our next topic, which is, again, how an autistic brain works in a different way, or the different experiences that autistic people have, common experiences that autistic people have, and they wanted us to talk about them. So we talked about this in the beginning, was the lack of theory of mind. So what is lack of theory of mind or impaired theory of mind? So what is theory of mind? So theory of mind is the ability to put ourselves in another person's shoes and see the world from their perspective, to understand how they feel in different situations, what they are thinking about in different situations, and how they're going to react to those situations. So we can predict their actions, basically. Now, think of this like when you are in a social situation with somebody, theory of mind can help a lot. You will know that, okay, so you'll think of what other person likes, and you can talk about those things that other people you have in common with other people, and this is how you make friends. You can predict that if I say this, it will hurt this other person, so I won't say it. Those kind of things. So theory of mind helps in social situations a lot, and we do have different levels of theory of mind, but as neurotypicals, we have this ability to put ourselves in another person's shoes. Think of somebody who cannot do this, who they cannot put themselves in your shoes or other person's shoes. How will this impact their life? These are some of the challenges that they can have. They won't understand why people are doing certain things or why they are feeling certain ways. They won't understand how their behavior impacts other people because they cannot put themselves in another person's place. They won't be able to predict other people's thoughts of perspectives. So they won't know like what to talk about or how to, like, let's say in a job interview, it involves a lot of perspective taking and theory of mind. If you can't put yourself in that person who's hiring you's shoes, you won't be able to present what they need to hear about. You might have lots of qualities, but you won't be able to present it. And this is related to a theory of mind. I can imagine how this impacts a person, an autistic person who doesn't have good theory of mind. Difficulty predicting other people's intentions. They can be very vulnerable. So there's an example of this was a boy who was sitting next to the certain boy in lunchtime, and he was like, this is my best friend. And he couldn't see that this boy was sitting because of his lunch, because he loved his lunch and was sharing it. And he was thinking, this is my best friend because wants to sit next to me in lunchtime. So this makes them vulnerable. Yeah. Or like thinking that other people might do different things with the information that I'm sharing. Like somebody asks me for my bank account details, I won't give it to them because I think, oh, why do you need that? People can do different things. I can think of that situation, right? If I don't have good theory of mind, I won't be able to imagine that. I think this is just a simple knowledge that this person asks for, so I'll give it to them because I'm interested in having knowledge about different things, right? So it can make them very vulnerable. Joint attention is another side of this theory of mind. So joint attention is being able to pay attention to something that other people are paying attention to. So like if I ask you, oh, you have the background. How long do you think is this? So if you have joint attention with me, you can think of this pin that I'm referring to, and then you can have a guess, like it's, I don't know, 15 centimeters long or 10 centimeters long or 12 centimeters long. So you can guess, right? But if you don't have good joint attention, I'll ask, how long is this? You'll look at a ruler beside you and then talk about that. So joint attention is basically this shared interest that we share with another person and a shared topic that we talk about. Like right now we're talking about autism. So I share some information, general information about autism. You guys have an autistic person in your mind because you're working with them. I have a different autistic person in my mind that I have worked with them. I share some knowledge about them with you guys. You can take it to the person that you work with, and you can think of different situations that you're going to be using it. If you didn't have joint attention with me, I would talk about autism. You'll think about, I don't know, something totally different. Like if I ask a question, you won't be able to answer it. You won't be able to learn from this call. So it impacts a lot of aspects of our life. Differentiating fiction from fact is another one that is related to a theory of mind, is the ability to understand that this cannot happen in real life. This is fiction. Like an example of this was my friend's son, who's autistic, and he wore a Superman suit. He liked it, so he wore it, and he jumped off the roof to their swimming pool because he thought he could fly, because Superman could fly. And then, well, he was lucky that nothing serious happened, but these things can happen. Differentiating fiction from fact, or somebody who wants to jump in to the TV to help with the fight that's happening in the TV. And they don't understand this is fiction, this is not real life. Now, can you think of any examples in people that you support?
I find as well with people with autism, they like to stick to rules. Is that another thing that they like to do? They can't go. It's like tunnel vision. It's like the rules, and you can't like go veer off or break
Yeah.
a rule, or you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
They can't imagine different things to it. It's
Yeah.
the rule that it cannot change. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is related to both the theory of mind and also executive functioning more, because they can't imagine what's going to happen if this doesn't happen exactly what they imagined, like what they know. Right. Yeah.
I have a friend who's autistic, and they really struggle with that fact from fiction thing. So, for example, you could tell them anything and they believe it. So they've been very, very vulnerable in terms of like conspiracy theories and that sort of stuff over COVID, and just sort of believing anything they've been told.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is that's something that can even get to the point that can be dangerous to the person. But they can't separate what they've heard. They cannot think, does this make sense in real life? Can this happen in real life? Because they cannot think there's a lie, or there's like, they won't lie. Autistic people won't lie. They're honest people. They won't lie because of this lack of theory of mind. Yeah.
I had a question.
Yeah.
And sorry if you've already gone over this, but it was just about timing as well. Would that come under some of the challenges they face with the timing? For example, like poor time management or estimating timings is something I've heard of as well.
Yeah. So no, I haven't talked about it, but yes,
okay.
time is understanding time can be challenging for autistic people. So time passing is a difficult concept that our brain understands it, and we know what does this mean, but an autistic brain usually struggles with that. So like we know that this means that this means that okay, so 10 minutes. So I tell you, like, we have 10 minutes on this thing, this topic. You understand what this 10 minutes means. Your brain is able to understand what this 10 minutes feels as a portion of like 2 hours that we have for this call. So but an autistic brain won't be able to understand that 10 minutes, won't have a feeling of that 10 minutes, won't have a feeling of that time passing. So 10 minutes will be difficult for them to imagine unless they can read the clock, or they have some sort of like concrete way of understanding that 10 minutes. So you can see how this impacts an autistic person. And when you want to tell them something, or when you want them wait for something, it can be really hard for an autistic person unless you give them very concrete indication of when this wait is going to finish. So like a sound timer or a visual timer, something like that.
For sure, because one thing we've started utilising at after school care and in holiday program is just making sure, well, we've been doing it for a while, but just when we do like a tidy up time or something, we'll do, you've got 10 minutes, you've got 5 minutes, you've got 2, you've got 1, things like that. But I realise that's not really a visual cue. Is that something that you still recommend us doing?
That is not a visual cue for autistic people. Some autistic people will struggle with that. So they won't understand what 5 minutes or 10 minutes mean unless you give them some sort of like, if they can read the clock, show them when this is going to end, or if you can play a music in the meanwhile to indicate this is the time that we are doing tidy up until this music is finished.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to pull you off topic.
No worries. No, it's absolutely fine. I am sharing some. I told everybody in the beginning of this call that I'm sharing some general information on autism. I don't know exactly what your challenges are, but if you tell me your challenges, I can give you more specific strategies around that. I might not mention, because I mean, there's no way you can talk about everything about autism in like 2 days of training.
Yeah.
So I might not mention what your challenge is, but if you ask questions, I can always tailor this training to your specific situations.
Thank you.
And this helps because we're a small group, so we can go off topic as much as we want. You're welcome. So how about empathy? Like, empathy means being able to understand how another person feels, right? And react to that. So do you think autistic people have the ability to empathize, have good empathy?
No.
No. Well, based on theory, they should not have good empathy because they don't have good theory of mind. Some autistic people, though, show empathy. And you'd be surprised, like how? Like when you don't have good theory of mind, how can you show empathy? This is the explanation for this sort of question, that empathy has 2 sides to it. A cognitive side, which is understanding how another person is feeling. And an emotional side is reacting to that emotion or showing that emotion. That understanding how another person is feeling is really challenging for autistic people. So they won't understand. But if you find a way to help them understand how another person is feeling, they will be able to show according emotions to that. So this is the emotional side is, well, works well, but the cognitive side is the side that is challenging. Now, there's also this explanation about autism from an autistic academic who also has an autistic son. He has talked about double empathy problem. So it's like, yes, that's correct. We autistic people, we do not understand how a neurotypical brain works. We don't understand how a neurotypical person means non-autistic person, how a neurotypical person feels and understands different situation, or feels in different situation, or has different emotions. But you guys, you neurotypicals, also don't understand autistic people. You neurotypical people also cannot understand how an autistic person feels in this specific situation. So this is a double empathy problem. The problem is not from one group, it's not from neurotypicals, or it's not from autistic people, it's from both of these groups. So we do not understand each other. Both of us need to try harder to understand other group, and us neurotypicals, because we claim that we have good theory of mind. Theory of mind means being able to put ourselves in another person's shoes. This is basically mostly our responsibility to take a step towards understanding how an autistic brain works. Can you relate to that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I've seen like a few social situations where it's just been like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? Like and not knowing how to communicate how that hurt someone else, or like or that was a bit like, oh, that wasn't what you do, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Lots of things that we do with autistic people, we use it as a strategy, but we don't necessarily think how this might impact a person in this situation, unless we use our empathy and we use our ability to put ourselves in other people's shoes and think, if I were that person, how would I feel to be told this way, or to be like taught this way, or to be treated this way? And we mean well. Most of the time we mean well, but we still wouldn't want to be treated that way if we were that person.
When like to explaining it, would it be helpful to ask like, oh, how would they be feeling, or like, can you imagine how they're feeling?
Yes, sometimes it is helpful. For some people, it is helpful to ask, and you can check with them. Some people will be able to tell you how they are feeling. Some people might not be able to tell you how they're feeling. Some people might not even know how they are feeling, and it will still impact their mental health. So like that's the thing that I talked about, like detecting when things are getting too much, and then knowing it and knowing what to do about it. So it's the same sort of thing. Sometimes they don't know that they are upset because of something that they have that has happened. But when these happen and more often, and they have more things that upset them, and it gets out of their hand, and you see a person being overwhelmed in those situations. Yeah, sometimes you can check, sometimes you can't. Although there's like, if you have different sort of emotions in a picture way, pictures of different emotions, and you talk about those with the autistic person that you're working with, you can get them to point at how they're feeling in different situations, and that can help. Sometimes perspective taking activities help. So like if you're in a group, talk about what fruit do you like, or what food do you like, and then ask different people so that they know different people have different perspectives about this, what food they like, or like what color they like, or what they dislike, or what activities they want to do, those kind of things. You can use these to talk about different people's perspectives. You can also use situations that happen. So like if somebody is crying and upset, you can talk about it to this person and say, why do you think they're upset? They're upset because this has happened to them, so that they understand different things make different people upset. So like we are upset because of different reasons. We don't get upset because of the same reason, all of us. So these kind of things help. Role play definitely helps, and you get them do some role play about any situation that you find challenging. So like if somebody in a right, like, and if somebody in a social situation asks a question that's not appropriate, and then you want to tell them this is not an okay question to ask other people, you can role play with them. You can help them to see how it impacts other people to hear that question. So this is just an example. So you can think of other examples that you guys are facing. And then help understanding emotions, thoughts, and action. This is similar to what you talked about, Stan, that you can use emotions, help them understand their emotions, ask them how they are feeling, to use some pictures. You can use these, help them understand their emotions, refer to their emotions, talk about their emotions, talk about their thoughts, talk about their actions, help them understand why these are happening and what these are. Video modeling is another great tool that you guys can always use it, because video is similar to picture. It doesn't fade away, it stays there, so it doesn't have put pressure on the person's working memory. This is basically videoing any situations that you want to talk about or teach them. So you get them play a specific thing, or you get them do a specific action that you want to teach them, and then video it. They will watch it over and over again and learn how to do it independently. Or you can use other people's videos. Like if there's something that they can't do, absolutely cannot do, and you want to teach them, you have to teach them, and they want to learn it, then you can use another person's video, like bicycle riding or something like that. Video modeling is a great tool. It's like we have our phones, we can video any situation and then play it and talk about it. When you use video, it plays the same every time you play it. So their brain won't be caught up with differences because they notice differences. When you talk about something, want to teach them, you change your words, you change your tone, you change the way you look every time. So it means different thing to the person. They will focus on those details. They cannot focus on what you're teaching them. But when you have videoed it, even if you are talking to them, when you have videoed it and played it many, many times, this helps them understand it better. So videoing is a great tool. Use it as much as you can. And be overt with your own emotions if you want them to understand you. Okay, this is hand model of the brain, which is trying to help us to understand how a brain reacts to emotions and then how it becomes overwhelmed. So if you want to understand this, you can think of your hand as your brain. So when this is your brain, this thumb here is your emotional brain. So here is your brain stem. This is your emotional brain, right? So this deals with your emotions, your happiness, your sadness, your anger, your frustration, all is dealt with this. And then these are your thinking brain covering your emotional brain all the time. So this is your well-connected brain. This is neurotypical brain. Your thinking brain is covering your emotions. So is regulating your emotions. So you won't react purely based on your emotions. Your brain stops you from doing that. When things go wrong in a day, like you're tired, you haven't slept well, you haven't eaten well, lots of things have happened during the day, this loosens up a little bit. When it loosens up, then the person, so when this loosens up a little bit, you lose a little bit of control over your emotions. You might react more based on your emotions. Like you might say something that you might regret later on, but you won't do serious actions because this loosens up a little bit. You haven't lost this whole thinking brain. You can always think, I'm sure you all can think of those situations that you have had too much things happening and you just cannot regulate your emotions as well as in a situation that you're comfortable with. Now, when we start off like this, our neurodiverse people, autistic people, start off like this. So they have less control from their thinking brain over their emotional brain. Now, when things go wrong for them, this flips open. So what happens is just emotions, just anger, just frustration, just sadness, all those emotions, just emotion is very exposed. And this is when overwhelm happens. This is when the person becomes overwhelmed. And here in this situation, you cannot reason with them. You cannot talk to them because there's no thinking brain involved. It is just emotions. You just need to let it pass. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about overwhelm and how overwhelm feels like. Okay, so we used to talk about tantrums and meltdowns. We don't talk about those anymore. We talk about overwhelm. Why we don't talk about tantrums and meltdowns is because this is all about the person being overwhelmed. This is all about the person in this situation. So it's like emotions exposed. It's not about a person choosing to do something. It's not a person who has ability to control any of this. It's the person who's lost the whole thing, right? This is this is a concept that impacts this whole thing, this whole brain. This is called neuroception. So what is neuroception? Neuroception is the brain's ability to assess risk. Our brain is constantly assessing, am I at risk or am I safe? And when we are detecting that we are at risk, our brain shifts to this brainstem, the place that deals with flight or fright, or you're not safe. So this is our brain, right? Our hierarchical brain. This is where our brain asks, this is our brainstem, our primitive brain, basically, which asks, am I safe? When we can answer yes to this question, yes, I am safe, we move to this emotional brain, limbic system. This part, when we feel safe, asks, am I loved? When we can answer yes to this question, then we move to this thinking brain. Then we can think and learn and function in a thinking brain, basically. Then this is the part that, what can I learn? So when you have a student that's stuck here, that I'm not safe, they won't be able to learn. Or I'm not loved, people don't love me, they won't be able to learn. So you need to get past these two to get to this situation. And neuroception works in really different weird ways. So people want, so neuroception works in really weird ways, which means that people, might feel unsafe in a situation that's completely safe to you. So an autistic brain has many more reasons to feel unsafe than us, obviously, and we know that because their brain experiences world in a different way, and we saw that world looks very scary for them in the video that we saw. So that's when they feel unsafe. They also there also might be something that happens to one person, or their brain works in certain situation that they feel unsafe because of that. So because neuroception works in a really weird ways, you don't always know that the person is feeling unsafe. But when you see a person is not ready to learn and is fighting, so like a person who is kicking, shouting, throwing things at people, or snatching toys off people, a child feels unsafe. When your autistic children are not prepared to learn, are not following instructions, they are feeling unsafe. And try and figure out how can you help them feel safe. Many of this is environmental related, and we're going to talk about sensory sensitivities, and it is related to the person's sensory sensitivities because they experience sensory input in a different way. Just sitting here in this situation can be scary for a person whose brain sees the lights brighter, hears the sounds louder, so it can be really scary and they can feel unsafe. Okay, so it's not about you creating unsafe situation, it's about autistic brain living in a neurotypical place. So this is what happens when the person is overwhelmed. This is an autistic person talking about them feeling overwhelmed. It's like I'm spinning out of control, no ground, no air, no sky, just me and fear and rage and desperation. Okay, so when overwhelm happens, person goes through these 3 stages. it builds up. So the person is like this, it builds up to get to this point. When it is building up, you see the person, every person will show it differently, but you'll see some signs. The person is starting to pace, to do more of the repetitive movements that they do more of stimming. So if you see these signs, you can see that the person is building up. If you catch it here before it gets to the point, to this point, you can bring it back down. So it is important to catch it here. You can't always catch it here at the build-up stage, but if you catch it, it's a lot easier to manage. When you can't catch it, it gets to this overwhelmed stage. This is when thinking brain is lost. So it's just emotions. So you cannot talk to the person, you cannot reason with the person, it's just emotions. And then you get to the recovery stage. So you get to the stage that you recover. You get to the recovery stage that the person needs to bring this back down. So I'm going to explain these in details. So start with the build-up stage. The build-up is when it is from here to here. Okay, so it is building up. If you catch it here, which I said is based on the signs that you see, every person will be different. When you're working with somebody, you'll know the signs that this person is building up towards being overwhelmed. So when you catch it here, you intervene early. You do something, you introduce a break, you do something, you distract them basically. It means you distract them. You use something that's happening there. You just snap them out of this situation. If you can do that, you can bring it back down. Remember to always have a space that is safe for them to go to if they are feeling unsafe. So always in any activity that you're doing, think of a space that you're going to give them to be able to focus on it, to do an activity in it. Provide a physical outlet that they can, like something that they can do, an activity that they can do that snaps them out of this. So like squeezing a ball or turning up a paper or running, walking, jumping, listening to specific sounds or music, whatever that thing is. You remain calm and quiet in this situation. And that is very important because this is a very challenging situation. That person is shouting and all that. So you remain quiet and calm and be aware of your own voice and your own tone and your own actions. We can feed into their them being overwhelmed if we can't manage ourselves being calm. So it's important to stay calm and to not raise our voice. And we raise our voice without knowing in these situations because we want to be heard. So our brain raises our voice without us noticing. But if you detect it and you notice and you stay calm, you will help them to stay calm. And stay close to the person in these situations. And if they don't want you to touch them, don't touch them, but stay close enough to give them some support when they need it. Check physical needs, because this will add to them being overwhelmed. So if the person is too hot or hungry or thirsty or need to go to the toilet, check those and make sure that you've done it. Physical activity, as I said, take them for a walk. but don't use too many words in these situations because this thinking brain is getting lost, so they can't really talk or understand your reasoning. And use their special interest that we talked about before. So if you know their special interest, or if you have a routine with them, use that to get them back on track. When we do all of these and still we cannot catch this, sometimes we do all of these and still we cannot catch it, and it gets out of hand. So this is when overwhelm happens. And what do we do then? This is what we do then. So overwhelm can be internal or external. So the person can, so we have two types of overwhelm. So when the person is overwhelmed, sometimes they externalize it and it's easy to see. So you see the person who's shouting and kicking and screaming and on the floor and all those things. So it's like explosion of negative emotions, and you can see that. Sometimes the person internalizes this. So the person is experiencing all that negative experiences, but internally, and is not showing anything externally. All you can see is a person who's like kind of like blank stare, or like kind of like seems like they're not present, but they are experiencing that negative emotions, and they need equal support to the one who's showing it to everybody. Yes, both of these are equally as distressing, but internalized one is easy to miss. Don't try to teach new skills in these situations. Don't try to reason them. Don't try to tell them it's not okay to do this. Think of other people, because they can't. And no power struggle for sure, because you can't win. So it's about protecting everybody. It's about safety of the person and everybody else, and protecting the person's dignity and manner. So taking the audience away, basically. Think of it as epileptic seizure. When a person is going through epileptic seizure, you cannot go to them and tell them, come on, you need to stop that and get up, because you know it is out of their control. This is the same thing. It is out of the person's control. And also, you wouldn't let people stay there and watch a person in that situation. So this is the same thing. Try not to let other people stay there and watch them going through this, being overwhelmed. And then have an exit strategy or plan. So if things got out of your hand and the person is overwhelmed and it's not safe, think ahead. What am I going to do? Where am I going to take them? What's my exit strategy? What am I going to do in this situation? Sometimes if it is an adult, you might have to leave the space and watch them from like distance. Sometimes you can have a cool down space that you can take them. Sometimes you just need to sit next to them, let them deal with the situation, and then after these, you can take them to the cool down space. So whatever it is, think ahead and know what you're going to do if this happens. Use as few words as possible. Prevent a power struggle. You will not win.
Could you just clarify what you mean by the power struggle? Because are we still meant to, like, for example, I had a child yesterday who was going into a bit of a meltdown, and we were trying to take him to his safe space. When that happens, are you meaning prevent a power struggle as in like not reasoning with them, or are you saying like, I need you to move now, we're going to the kitchen and we'll talk about this later, sort of thing? Is that what you're meaning? Or
yes, so power struggle will look different to different people. But if the person is in that state, really in that state, you cannot take them to a different space
Okay.
willingly. So you either need to like kind of hold them and take them, lift them up and take them. Otherwise, you cannot like convince them, let's go to this cool down space. So you're not gonna win because the person is not deciding to do what they are doing. They're just doing it, not thinking of it. So it's like so wait until it passes, but take other people away if you can, so that it's safe.
So in that sort of situation, it was during a group game, so it's not something that we could have you know, moved everyone out of. So in the end, I just tapped him on the shoulder and I said, we're moving to the kitchen now. And that seemed to work for him. So I know you said giving directions doesn't quite work, but in that sense, is it because it's a pre-planned thing that we'd already agreed on? Do you think that might have been why he moved?
Yep, either that or he's not there yet.
Okay.
He's like, here, it's not lost. This connection is not quite lost yet.
Right.
So he's losing it, but he hasn't got to this. So that's actually what we talked about before. That here, build-up stage.
So he was in the
It is
build-up.
the build-up stage. So you, this is the best place to intervene. And if you catch it there and you convince them to go to their cool down space, this is the best strategy to do. But sometimes that time is lost and you haven't noticed, and the person is at the state that whatever you do, you cannot convince them to go. This is when the person is overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed, and you just need to let it pass. You just need to stay there and watch everybody and look at their safety and let it pass.
Okay, thank you.
Then recovery stages goes through, then after this, it needs to get back down, right? So this is the recovery stage. That goes through 5 stages. You start with relaxing. It's important to know that this has happened. Lots of negative emotions have been exchanged here. So we can't just think this is over, let's get back doing what we were doing. We need to let the person relax and give it some time. And then find a way to reconnect with them, because that's another important thing to do. Sometimes we miss this. We think, okay, this is over, so we switch staff, like we go and get somebody else in because we can't manage this situation. Somebody else comes in and finishes off, and then we don't go and reconnect with the person. What happens here is that every time this person sees us, associates us with those negative emotions. So they will be overwhelmed when they see us. They will have more overwhelmed situations with us because we haven't reconnected. So it's important to reconnect with the person. After this has passed, go back to them and then take out a game that they want, talk about something that they like to do, or talk about information that they like those restricted interests. Use those to reconnect with the person and make sure that they don't connect you with those negative emotions. They have positive emotions with you. And then reflect on it. What happened? What might have triggered that overwhelm? Could you have done it differently? And then try and recharge. You'll need to find some time to recharge your batteries too, because those negative emotions will impact you too. And if you don't do that, you'll have negative feelings towards the situation, and that will impact how you work with the person. So if you'll need to go away, switch staff, go away, take some time to cool down, to get rid of these negative emotions, to have a cup of tea, or to like do whatever works for you, do an exercise or something. And then when you have cooled down, come back and reconnect with the person. And then if it was a new situation, or if it's a situation that it was a situation that is going to happen in future, think of what kind of adjustments can you make to it in future so that it doesn't impact the person like that anymore. Any questions on this overwhelm? You guys know how to do this?
I never experienced my person being overwhelmed, so I'm quite glad that I haven't, but it'll be good.
Yeah.
They do like lots of the repetitive actions or like that kind of thing, so I might look at that more.
Yeah, yeah. So overwhelm happens a lot, and even knowing these, you can experience overwhelm. I mean, it is going to happen because autistic person's brain works in a different way, and we cannot always understand everything about it. But that recovery stage is probably the most important stage of it. So this is a quote from Mona Delahook, who is a psychologist, and we learn from her a lot, and we use her strategies a lot because she talks about understanding the why behind behavior rather than the behavior itself. So it talks about overwhelm rather than tantrums and meltdowns. So she says we need to understand that controlling one's emotions and behaviors requires that certain foundations be in place first. So that safety is the most important thing. If it is there, then the person can control. If it's not there, then they can't. So that the foundation of self-control requires emotional regulation, or the ability to feel safe and calm. So when the person is not able to feel safe and calm, then those overwhelms are going to happen more often. For a person to learn how to calm their body and mind requires a person, a teacher, a support worker, a caregiver, a parent who are able to be soothing in a way that works for each particular person. So you'll need to figure out how you can soothe their them, basically help them to calm down. Sometimes you can do some activities with them, actions with them. Sometimes music can help. Sometimes you'll need to sit next to them. For younger children, you might need to give them a hug or pressure. So whatever the soothing looks like, try and find that with your person, and try and know that when those things happen that we call them behaviors, it's because they cannot soothe. Okay. So this is the iceberg that is something that's going to help us to understand that behaviors that we see have reasons, and those reasons are a lot more than what we can see and imagine. So it's like that behavior that we see, the person is aggressive, disrespectful, challenging, defiant, difficult, willful, we call it tantrum. Those are lots of challenges behind it. It is lack of social skills, fear, lack of sleep, being nervous, being different, crisis, low self-regulation, hungry, anxiety, grief, distrust, shame, unsafe, all of those can cause these behaviors. So you can see a person who's aggressive, like an example is a child, a student who at school takes everything of other people's hands and wants everything to have to themselves and keeps fighting for things with people. You see an aggressive child who is dominant and takes away things that people want and need. But what this person is, this is a person who is feeling unsafe and crying for help, basically. This is a cry for help. And we don't necessarily usually see that. When we see a challenging behavior, we don't see it as a cry for help, but it is a cry for help. Instead of assuming a person's challenging behavior is willful and manipulative or disrespectful, we must first ask, does this person have behavioral control? Do they have emotional control? Are they feeling safe? If not, then these are survival instincts. So our autistic people, because Mona Delhook works with everybody, not just autistic people, for our autistic people, they don't have those bases. They are not feeling safe. And these behaviors that we see as behaviors are their survival instincts. Is their brain stem ordering them, not their thinking brain. And teaching coping skills is great when a person is ready to be taught. But the true foundation for helping people is built through the experience of love, safety, and connection in relationships. These are very important to keep in mind. If you build that relationship with the person, if you manage to help them experience love and connection, then they can basically connect better with you. Okay. This is, so one way to help your autistic people is through co-regulation. We said that many of this is because there's not, the foundation is not there. The behaviors are because the foundation of self-regulation or emotional regulation is not there. To be able to teach them emotional regulation is through co-regulating with them. So this is their bucket of the person's, you can see the person's bucket of regulation. They have a little bit of self-regulation, especially when they're younger, or they're autistic, or they have other neurodiversities. They have a little bit of self-regulation. You need to add a lot more to that to help them regulate. So adding to that can look different with different people. So like, okay, these are some examples. So this can look like you ask them, do you need help? This can look like deep breathing. This can look like naming the emotions. This can look like counting to 10 with them. Staying close to them, but not touching them, not talking if they don't want you to talk, or not touching. Sometimes they need hugs, going for a walk together, doing something with the person that helps them calm down. So this is what it means. So it's you doing something with them that help them to calm down. I won't go to the next topic because I won't be able to cover it in 3 minutes. So I'll stop here, and then we can have some time for questions, if there's any questions before we close today's session. So think of the situations that you work with. Can you think of using these strategies? Is there something that is confusing or you don't know how to use it? You can you can
Yeah.
ask.
I have one little girl actually who can come across as being very bossy, and she wants everything. When she sees she's playing with her friend who's not doesn't have autism, and if she sees something, she'll want it, and if she doesn't get it, she has a proper tantrum.
Yeah.
And she stamps her feet and she shouts, and it can go on for a very long time. And it's finding the ways to help her. I mean, what we try to do is, it's hard, but we have to try and ignore that behaviour and give her a space. Well, she takes herself off to a safe space and she regulates herself. And then once she's calmer, I go up to her and say, what can I do to help? You know, I try and do that. What can I do to help you?
Yeah.
You know, and normally her friend always gives in and says, you can have it, you can play with it, you know, because she doesn't want her to see her friend in that state, kind of thing. So, but then I still want her to understand that not everything that she sees she can have. But I don't know how to, you know, tell her that. Obviously not in that state anyway, but once she's calm, we can then go into, you know, hey, you can't, everything you see you can't have, we have to share. And do I then bring that conversation to her to make her understand? It's a difficult one.
Yes, that's a tricky situation, because
Yeah.
when a person might know that this is not the right thing to do. So like, let's say I know that like I'm the person and I know that I shouldn't take things off people. When I feel unsafe though, my brain says like, you're unsafe, so this is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
So I don't think of, is this the right thing to do? I can't. There's no, like, my thinking brain is not working as well as it should be. So I can't think, is this the right thing to do? So the only thing I do is that I take things off people because this helps me feel safe. So this is, I think, what happens to your little girl that doesn't feel safe. When she doesn't feel safe, it doesn't mean that you're not creating a safe situation for her. You are, but her brain is working in a different way. So even like having somebody close to her maybe leads to her not feeling safe. Maybe even that friend being too close to her is the cause of this. So you need to figure out what's the reason that she's not feeling safe if you want to help her really in these situations to stop this. We can react to this behavior, we can teach, we can use all these strategies, but it's not going to work if the situation keeps happening for this. If the person is not feeling safe, the person might not feel safe because they're not getting enough sleep at night. So there are lots of factors.
Mostly it happens when there's a routine change, and I acknowledge that, and then this behavior is happening because obviously she feels unsafe.
So that's a great thing that you can see that it is the sign of not feeling safe. And like, think of one other way to explain this is a 3-story building. So think of this as a 3-story building, this brain. Like we talked about these brainstem, safe, love, and then reasoning. So this is a 3-story building. When somebody is in the first story and shouting or taking toys off other people, not feeling safe, it's like in the first floor. When you are in the top floor and you tell them, come on, you know better, you know not to take toys off other people, you are talking from the top floor. It's like you are putting your hand down and trying to pull them up from the bottom floor to the top floor. This is not going to work. You need to walk down to the bottom floor and then walk up with them to the middle floor and then to the top floor. You can teach them the right things, but later on, not in these situations, and it's not always going to work if the person is feeling unsafe.
I get you.
Okay,
thank you.
anyways, and Okay, any other questions before we finish off? I think I've gone over time, but I don't want to take your time more than what I'm supposed to. But if there's any question, I'm happy to say and answer. If anyone wants to go, you're welcome to leave. Okay, is there not any more questions? I'll stop sharing.
My question is like, how are ways you can go about finding out what makes them feel unsafe? Like, how do you have that conversation?
What makes a person to feel safe? Sometimes you can have the conversation with the person. Sometimes you can't. So it depends on the person. If the person is cognitively able to feel it, to talk about them feeling unsafe, you don't need to talk about you're feeling unsafe. You could talk about what made you do that, or like what were you thinking in that situation, or like what made you do that, basically? What made you like punch that person, or what made you like take the toy off that person, or things like that. Some people can tell you, but not all of them. And most autistic people won't be able to tell you. They don't know that they are feeling unsafe. It's like about a child. Like you think of your own child or a child that you live with. When they start screaming and shouting and crying when they're like 3 or 2, you know that they're not feeling safe. You give them a cuddle. You just sit with them and sing to them or like distract them, but you can't tell them. You cannot ask them what makes you feel unsafe. Okay, so you need to figure out a way to help them feel safe more than understanding what makes them unsafe. Sometimes you can understand this by seeing the pattern. So like if you take a person to a specific place and every time or every other time, like more often they have those challenging times there, then you'll know there's something about this space. Then you'll be able to look around and see what is different in this space. Like, is it loud or is it brighter? Is there a sensory item? So we're going to talk about sensory sensitivities in the next session, and that will help. But yeah. Okay.
Thank you.